Hey, what's up you guys, it's IAmTheLionRider, and today's video is going to be the most narcissistic / self-deprecating video I will probably ever do on my channel. So today we are going to be ranking in prop tier list form every item from my Safari pack. So this was a mod pack that I released yesterday, and it is essentially, for all intents and purposes, a Planet Zoo DLC. It is 450 plus props, and it was a labor of love, and it's definitely something that I wanted to just basically, for all intents and purposes, treat as a DLC. So if anyone has seen my channel and stuff before, I like to do prop tier lists for all of the props that Frontier does. And so I thought this would be a fun little, roast session / fun time for me. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I want to go over are the ranks. So very similar to my normal ranking system. You have S tier, A tier, B tier, C, D, and F. And then I have added this one, which is the Lion Rider tier, which is full-on narcissism. I'm just going to blow smoke up my own, you know what I mean. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing that I guess we will grade, of course, are these statues. So I have a lot of statues in this pack, and some of them are better than others. So I will start off with this one right here. So this is the Giraffe Statue. And immediately, a thing that I'm probably going to grade these on, of course, are the colliders, because obviously a major difference between official content and modded content is I am not able to modify the colliders of stuff. So, for instance, this giraffe here has awful colliders, and I can barely select it. So I believe I may have tried to put it in the center of the giraffe, but since I can't even select it like normally, I think, here we go, there we go, I can finally get it. I am probably gonna have to put this in D tier. The other thing is since it's such a large statue, the shader kind of messes it up a little bit. So it's a cool pose. I like the idea you're supposed to have like guests walk underneath it, but unfortunately, until I figure out that issue and the collider, again, it's just such a pain. I'm gonna have to put it in D tier because it's just not a very practical statue. Now, that being said, the other giraffe statue I think is a little bit more manageable. Still really bad collider, of course, but definitely better. It's sad. I'm gonna literally have to select one of the other statues to select the giraffe. But this one's a pretty solid statue. We've never had a good giraffe statue in the game that's life-size. So this is accurate to the in-game size of the giraffe, so I'm going to put it in B tier. It's pretty good. Next up, we're going to do basically all of these elephants at once. So I'm just going to basically call these all equal, and I'm just going to represent all of the elephant statues with this. I think this is an A tier statue. The colliders are pretty good on all of these, and it's a solid collection of poses and stuff. And we've never had a normal elephant statue in the game, so I think it's really useful. Next up, I want to go over these. So these are the elephant head items. So I'm going to actually represent both using this. I have a variant of the tusks, both tusks, and the broken tusks. Now, immediately the annoying part is this is supposed to attach onto walls, and it, by default, snaps to the bottom. So, it's not as useful as the full elephant statues, so I'm gonna maybe put it in C tier. It's not bad by any metric. I think it's, it obviously looks like an elephant, but it's not the most optimized. So next up, the lion statue. So I did these on stream not too long ago, and these ones were actually inspired by the National Zoo at Washington, D.C. So I actually really like these. I think these are probably A tier. They're going to be great for like museum entrances or zoo entrances, depending on what you want. Both have a metal and copper variant, so that is one of the few statues in the game that actually has both kinds of statues that are in this pack. So that's really really nice. Next up, I gotta cover the other lion statue, because it's a big boy, and that is the San Diego Zoo inspired metal lion statue. And this is a big statue, but weirdly enough, it's not distorted like the giraffe statue. So it's very large, but it's actually pretty good. So I'm gonna put it in B tier for one reason only, and that is practicality. Like, it is just a bit much. So unless you are literally making San Diego Zoo, it is not very practical. It's such a big, gigantic statue. It's really cool, but it's not practical. So for that reason, I'm not a huge fan of it. I will definitely use it for certain projects, but it's obviously not super ideal. So next up, we have the 3 metal Gazelle statues. So these ones were actually concepted by Randy Clark, who's a community member, and they actually look really good. I think these are came out to be some of my favorite statues, so I'm going to throw them in A tier. Similarly, I want to put both the Black Rhino statue and the Cheetah statues. They're some of my other favorites in A tier as well. I think they came out really good. They're really nice. I think these statues are probably some of my favorites, the ones that I'm putting in A tier. I don't think any of them go into like S tier because they're not super practical. Obviously, there's statues, but they're definitely pretty good. So the White Rhino, I'm going to dock it a few points, probably down to C tier. It's not that it's bad by any metric. It's identifiable as a White Rhino. I just don't think I got the posing super right. You have to kind of bend it a little bit for it to look like it's actually sitting down. That was also inspired by the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. So all of these statues, of course, were, when I developed them, designed with some kind of zoo in mind, for whatever reason. So these Flamingo statues, they are good. I do like them all together, but they do have some questionable posing, like this one and this one. I think the flying one is pretty inoffensive, so I might actually move that up a tier, because it's not a bad pose for that one. The other two, I've had people say this one has a broken leg, and I've had this one just, it's not the best pose. But all three together look really good, so I guess that's kind of like how you judge them is up to you, whether or not you judge them as a unit, like a cohesive unit together, or if you judge them individually. So next up, this is where I'm going to be really harsh on myself. So this zebra statue I really like. However, I have to grade the two kinds of zebra statues you get differently. So this is the concrete sculpture zebra. This one is probably getting a B tier, right? Because it's a solid looking zebra statue. I really like it. It's got a cool pose, etc. But it's not the best. But I have to kind of give the flipped version a D tier, because for some reason flipped versions of models sometimes have these weird normal map issues. So even though this is literally just an inverse of the other zebra, there's a weird normal map issue on the tail that really bothers me personally. It wouldn't bother many other people, but it bothers me so much because I've tried to fix it. I just can't figure it out. So for that reason, the flipped zebra statue gets a tier lower than the normal one. So let's go back onto architecture, because this is where I think the pack really shines. So first off, the worn thatch roof set. So this is obviously representing the entire roof set that is in the game. There is an entire thatch roof set that, you know, has, I don't know, 30 plus pieces. I'm obviously representing it by a single piece right now, but needless to say, it represents the whole pack. This one I'm going to give our first S tier, because it's a very useful piece. I mean, I can't tell you how many zoos have thatch roofs, and specifically the thatch we have in the game, whether it be the normal base game Africa or the South America thatch, they just have these gross neon yellow colors that just aren't accurate. But this thatch is a nice muted gray that is very realistic to how actual zoos would look. So I think this is a really useful piece. The only reason it's not triple S tier is because I tried to get it to be FlexiColor and I just couldn't figure it out. It would be way too much work for what it is. So I instead went with the logical thing that I think a lot of people would choose as a logical, thatch color. Next up, our first Lion Rider tier, I am going with the wooden parquet floor. So this is actually one of the very first pieces I developed for the pack, and it is awesome. This wood set is so nice. It's a very like glossy, reflective wood, so like as you can see here, like the light balances off of it really nicely. It looks really cool. You get a lot of the detail, and it's just got a really cool design. So I really like the wooden parquet floor set, and wall set for that matter. It works insanely well with the stained wood. It works very well with the plaster in game. You can definitely make some really cool Safari Lodge type things with that. So we'll continue over with the other building sets. So Flagstone, this is going to get the very next Lion Rider tier. Flagstone, this is what a lot of people consider like one of the best pieces in the pack. It's a flexi color thing as well, so you can change the color of the stone to whatever you want. It's very, very useful. We don't really have anything like this in the game already, which is a real shame in my opinion, because I think it looks awesome. It is excellent for building, and I really, really like it. So next up, so this is another one where I think I'm going to put it in A tier. It's not the most crazy thing, but it's definitely really good. So I'm going to put it in S tier. This is the Rustic Shingles roof. I'm not sure what I rated the original aquatic pack, like shingle roof. I forgot what it's even called, like aquatic roof or something. If I look at the aquatic pack really quick, here it's the painted slate roof. So if we look at it, the painted slate roof actually has a bug in it with its flexi-color thing that I have actually fixed in my version. So I'm pretty sure whatever I ranked it, I have it better. Because as you can see here, they have the exact same color channels. But if you zoom out, Frontier's one actually turns white from far away. Mine does not, because I have fixed their bug for them. So for that reason, I'm putting it in a S tier. I had a lot of people like praise me on that, because they're like, yeah, you kind of outdid Frontier there. You fixed one of their bugs. So and it's also just a more useful, I think, shingle set. Next up, we have the Pyramid set. So the Pyramid set is a bit controversial. I really like it. I had a lot of people saying it's useless. Build the pyramid piece by piece. I don't even agree with that. I think it's way better to just quickly throw together pyramids and stuff using the individual corner pieces that I've developed. So I think for usability and practicality, I have to rate it two different things. So usability, this is the easiest way to make a pyramid. So I don't think I can put it in like lower than C tier because it's super easy to use. But at the same time, I am going to put it in C tier because making pyramids, of course, is very, I guess it'd be rare for a zoo. It has its uses. Obviously, it works really well with the other Egyptian items that we got from North Africa. But it's obviously not super ideal. Not to mention, it isn't flexi-color, so it's not super versatile. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in C tier. It's not super bad, but it's definitely not one of the better pieces. So next up, we will go over, I guess, the wood sets, because there's a lot of wood in this pack. So representing all of the wooden planks, I'm just going to do one of each category, and I think they're all pretty much universally going to be the same. So I'm going to put these two types of wood. So these are the flexi-color painted wood that you get from the Safari Pack. I think these are going to be S tier. They are obviously just another flexi-color kind of wood. They are very similar to the East Asian planks, practically identical. They have a different texture and a few different modifications. So I think they are going to be useful. They work really well with each other. So I hope people enjoy that, because I think it's a really good thing just to add more wood. Now here is I'm going to rank all of these together as a unit. I'll represent them with this piece, sure. So this is the African Unpainted Timber set. And all of these pieces, as you can see, I am going to give it a pretty high rank because of how much variety there is. You obviously have super thin, you have really thick, you have square, etc. You have super tall. So there's a lot of variety here, so I'm probably going to put it in B tier. Now, the only reason I'm putting it in B tier instead of like A tier or something, this one is not flexi-color, so there is a reason behind that. I couldn't make it flexi-color because it's just, there was nothing similar in the game already that was flexi-color that I could add this on. So for that reason, I unfortunately couldn't make it flexi-color. It's not bad on its own. It's a pretty nice, like, acacia texture, like a muted gray, so it's not insane. But obviously, it's not my favorite color for wood. It's not super ideal. And just practicality-wise, like, it's not FlexiColor, so it's just not as good. But speaking of stuff that is FlexiColor and very, very useful, that is the wooden stick fences. So these are all FlexiColor, and they are the zoo fence of all zoo fences. These are LionRider tier if I've ever seen it, because they're just exactly what you'd expect out of a zoo fence. They are literally just a stick fencing. Like, we don't have anything in this game like this. The North African painted logs were close. They definitely came close. They're just not thin enough. They're close, just not as thin as they should be. So you now have two types of new little thin wood that you can play with. They are all FlexiColor. So they're easily one of my favorite pieces, if not my favorite piece in this pack. So next up, I guess we are now into controversial time, and that is the taxidermy. So I'm going to go with least intrusive to most intrusive as far as taxidermy goes, and rank accordingly. So first things first, we should rank the taxidermy podiums. So the taxidermy podiums, I think they're really nice. They're really useful if you want to use them for something other than taxidermy. They're good for statue bases, they're good for wall signs, etc. I saw someone actually use it as a gazebo, which was really cool. So I think these are actually probably gonna get an A tier. They're really good pieces. I really like them. I'm really proud of how the texture came out. It looks really good. They went through a few iterations, but I think the final one looks really good. So I guess next up we can kind of grade the taxidermy wall mount large and small. So these ones, they're not FlexiColor, so I'm gonna have to dock it a point. But I guess I'm gonna put them in C tier, not because they're bad, they're just not super useful for anything outside of taxidermy. And obviously they're not just super ideal because there's no FlexiColor channel. So from that perspective, you could definitely use the backside as a wall texture, but it's not as good as it could be. But next up, eggs. I think the eggs are kind of a sleeper thing. So they're kind of really useful. So for the during the day, they actually are, you know, normal eggs that you can just put whatever. But they actually do have an emissive quality to them. So they actually do glow. So they're kind of like lights, essentially, that you can use in your zoos. And they are super FlexiColor. So I made them really versatile. So if you want to make these into an Easter egg or something, you literally can do that. You can change the color to literally whatever you want. If you want, the other thing is the little spots on them are also FlexiColor, so you can change the eggs to be all the same color. Let's say you wanted just like a brown quail egg or something, you can do that. There is a lot of options here. So I think the eggs are kind of an A tier, honestly, because I think they're really, really good props. It's a small little thing, but obviously it's really, really cool from that perspective. So now I guess we will also rank the non taxidermy, and that is the crocodile skin sofa and chair. I think these are really good. But maybe down a point for the simple reason of, obviously you might not want a couch or a chair in every build, but furniture of any kind, especially FlexiColor furniture, is definitely appreciated. So I think you have to kind of, it's a give and take of whether or not it's going to be super useful, but I think it's going to be very, very cool. So next up. Elephant tusk and the skulls of the buffalo. I think I'm going to rank these pretty high because for education value, they're pretty good. So I feel like a lot of people are going to use these as like habitat enrichment or decoration, or obviously for, you know, nice. I've seen people use these as archways and stuff that look really cool. They're very good for education stances. Like I can't tell you how many times people have done like elephant tusk little dioramas and stuff. So for that reason, the elephant tusk is getting a high rank. And then I love the bison or the buffalo carcass. I think it looks really, really good. I've seen great techniques where you can hide feeders and stuff in it. It looks really cool, especially for carnivores and stuff. So, this is just me going to be grading myself because I really like this piece as an art piece, and that is the zebra taxidermy. I don't think the zebra taxidermy is insanely useful, of course, but it's a really pretty art piece, and it is. Did I make it flexicolor? I forget. I don't think I did. Yeah, I didn't. But it's just really pretty. I like the zebra print, and it's a very unique form of taxidermy from the rest. The rest are normally just, you know, full body things. So for that reason, it's not bad. Okay, so now we're into actual taxidermy. Now, I think I'm gonna grade these by posing, because it's kind of difficult to be like, obviously there's all the animals in the game, but I think I'll go by posing and how each looks. So, starting with the zebras. So I really like one of the zebra poses. It's pretty normal. And then the other one is a bit questionable. So this one is pretty normal. This one I'm going to dock a point. It's not bad when you use it properly next to the lion or something attacking it. But the front leg is a bit like janky. I did mess that up. I might fix that in a future patch. Because I'm not super crazy about that posing relative. Next up, we can do the Cape Buffalo. So let's do that. And Cape Buffalo, I really like. This is definitely one of those where you can definitely tell I was getting better at taxidermy. The zebra was one of the ones I did early on, so that's kind of why it's super janky. And I really like the dead buffalo. I know it's very morbid, but I really like the dead buffalo for, like, again, in conjunction with a piece that we'll talk about later, or with the carcass and stuff. It looks really cool and could be good for feeders and stuff, so I really do like that one. And I think some of these other poses are kind of like cool dynamic ones. You could have a lion attacking this one, or, I mean, if you wanted a leopard, you could. It'd be kind of weird because leopards can't really attack, whatever. But it looks really good. I'm going to rank both elephants at the same time. I think both are equally good, in my opinion. Just because of the size, obviously I can't fit them all in. But the elephant one is really good. I really like the elephant taxidermy. The giraffe taxidermy, I am not super crazy about. I can kind of rank the rhino in the same vein. They are not bad for obvious reasons. They are just the animals. But I think that's why they're kind of boring. So I'm going to kind of dock them down. I'm actually going to move the zebra down to C tier, and then these ones, they're not bad, they're just boring. So they're not the most interesting poses, and I personally like the more dynamic ones. Though the boring ones can be useful for the simple fact of they're really good for taxidermy, you know, generally. So next up, the Kudu. I really like one of the poses, so I like this sprinting pose. This one kind of gets the same thing as the zebra. One of the legs just seems a little bit wonky, and it looks a little bit off. The bongo, I think, looks good. I have no issue with the bongo. Bongo looks like a pretty good taxidermy, in my opinion. Leopards. So leopards are going to be graded kind of similarly. So I had someone point this out, and now I can't see it any other way. The leopard right here that is sitting on the log, or supposed to be sitting on a log, has a broken foot right here, and I can't unsee it, and it bothers me. Not to mention, this is one of the early taxidermies I did, so it's a bit lower resolution than some of the other ones that I did later on. So for that reason, I'm going to have to dock it. But I do really like this one. So this one I think looks really cool. I actually added a lot of detail to the sculpting of the face to make it really angry looking, and like it looks really cool. So I think that's just a personal favorite of mine. I'm gonna put it in A tier. It works really, really well. So speaking of leopards, we can do the Leopard Skin Rug. So again, this is me straight up calling out my own flaws here. I'm going to put this in D tier just because I know an issue with it that most people will never notice in a million years. And that is in the actual model right here. There is a hole, there's two like holes, and you could be like, oh, those are the bullet holes or something of how they got it. But it really bothers me. Again, you won't notice it at all, really, but now I've pointed it out, so everyone's going to notice it. And so that is a thing that just bothers me, and like it was just going to be too much of a pain to fix. So hopefully everyone can, you know, forgive me over that. But that is a thing that bothers me and why I'm ranking it kind of lower. The gorilla taxidermy. So gorilla isn't bad. I think it's okay posing. The gorilla is very difficult to pose for obvious reasons. It's obviously a gorilla, which is very, you know, human-like, but also the model is upright by default, so getting it back into gorilla pose on its knuckles and stuff was kind of difficult. And the only reason I'm docking the gorilla, because I think the posing is okay, a point is it's a mountain gorilla, and without the fur shader being put on the taxidermy, it just doesn't look as good as I would like. So for that reason, I'm going to dock it a point. Now, that being said, hippos. I think I really like the hippos. I think I did a good job on the hippo posing and stuff. I think the ones that I chose are really good dynamic poses. And the one with the open mouth, a lot of people have been using as like head mounts and stuff, so I really like it. Honey badger. So the honey badger is a little tiny taxidermy, and I think it's really inoffensive. It's hard to be like, oh, that's bad, because it's just the honey badger. It's, you know, it doesn't give a, you know. So I think that's kind of cool. Next up, the lions. So the lions, again, some of the earliest ones I have, but I gotta probably, you know, put them in S tier just because they're the most iconic of the taxidermies. They have some of the coolest poses, and they're just some of the most useful, I think, when you're thinking about taxidermy, because lions are just cool. Next up, all of the head mounts. The head mounts, I think, all get pretty much equal ranking, in my opinion, at A tier. I think they are really, really solid. They're just exactly what you want. Actually, I might dock them a point just for versatility's sake. So now they're in B tier. They're still really good. It's just, you know, I have to obviously dock them for that reason. Next up. Ooh, we are getting down to the nitty-gritty. No real bad thing. I don't think I have any F tiers, and that could just be me, of course, like, you know, because it's obviously my pack, but anything that would have been, there were some F tiers, I have removed them from the pack for a reason. So that's kind of the thing is, there are some unofficial F tiers that I could probably talk about, one of them being the Savannah planters that didn't make it in the final cut. I've shown them on my channel and stuff. They get a honorary F tier, in my opinion. But next thing I want to put, though, in the lowest tier, probably the Egyptian animal signs. They're not bad. They look a little bit worse than the frontier ones. Not like so significantly that it's like the worst thing ever, but they're not as good as the frontier ones, of course, quality-wise, and just in general, I didn't really like the frontier ones either, so that's why they're kind of getting a pretty low rank. They're just not very good pieces, in my opinion. And then now I guess we can get into the murals. So the murals, I think, it's iffy, because the murals, I guess, I'm gonna put them kind of ranked exactly like how this is. So the Savannah mural, I'm gonna put it in C tier because I think as an art piece, it's really cool. I like the, you know, it's a seamless gazelle texture and stuff, and like it looks really cool, like going from one to the other. But the reason these guys aren't ranking super high, first off, they're kind of glorified billboards. But not to mention, the argument, of course, was, oh, well, you have the curved pieces and stuff. But as you can see, the curved pieces don't always line up perfectly. This particular one does in the Congo, and the desert one kind of works well. But if we look at the Savannah Mural, it doesn't always line up correctly. Like, that one lines up, but then let's say we were to try to do this, oh, now it's not really lining up. So it's kind of a little bit iffy. So for that reason, I'm going to put them like that. Obviously, just usability-wise, it's not the most practical. Let's do the fonts next. So the fonts, I think, they're triple S tier, because they're just font types, so you can't really be upset by them, and I think I chose good fonts. So you have the San Diego Zoo font right here on the bottom, and then these, what I call the Safari font, which is essentially the Jurassic Park font. I've been seeing a ton, pretty much anyone who uses an African area is going to use this font. It's just such a useful one compared to the in-game Noto or Boogaloo fonts, so I think they are really good. So next up, the Lemur Signs, or Madagascar Signs, I guess. I'm going to rank them all at once. So I think, actually no, they probably should be individual. So right off the bat, useful signs, I should say. The animals that are in the pack. So I'm going to put these in B tier, because they are kind of large and kind of specific, but they are at least for Madagascar animals that are in the pack currently. The other lemur signs, I don't know if they're as useful, because they are the black and blue-eyed lemur, male and female, and then a collared lemur. The collared lemur should be in a future patch of the pack, but they're just not super useful on their own because they're not in the pack currently. So it's like, why would you have signs for something that's not in the pack? It's kind of the main Frontier argument that we often get, and so for that reason, I kind of want to dock them points, because it's me being Frontier and doing something that is like, that's not even in the game. Why did you put it in? So that's why I'm gonna dock it points. Similar, I think the ring-tailed lemur sign, I think it's fine. This is based off of Capron Park Zoo. It's totally fine. It's just a ring-tailed lemur head. I don't see why it would have any issue. So the last one in the Madagascar thing is the Baobab tree sign. I can definitely see this being useful, so I am gonna put it in C tier. It's not bad. It's just, obviously, it's kind of specific art style-wise, and while you can use it for general African areas, it's kind of meant to be with the Madagascar section, so it's a little bit of a tricky situation to judge it off of. The metal art piece lemur sign, I think I'm going to put it in C tier as well. It's a really pretty art piece, but it's very, very specific. It is flexicolor, so you can change the color of the lemurs and stuff. But obviously it's an art piece. It's for a Madagascar section and not really for anything else. So for that reason, probably that. I mean, just for the sake of it being Lion Rider tier, I have to put it in here. Realistically, I gotta put it in probably B tier. It's a nice lion sign, but I'm gonna put it just because it's me, you know, the Lion Rider tier, of course. I think it's obviously really useful. I tried to make it really versatile too, so if you want, it has, if you sync it in, it's my logo, but if you bring it up a little bit, it becomes the San Diego Zoo logo, or something similar to the San Diego Zoo logo, so for that reason, that's why I did that. Speaking of the San Diego Zoo logo, the Rhino. So Rhino is going to be higher than D tier, but it does have an issue, and this is something I am probably going to fix in a future patch. So the only issue is the Rhino default colors are not consistent with what the actual base game Rhino sign is. So if we actually like spawn in a base Rhino, it kind of has this jack-o'-lantern Halloween type color thing. Obviously you can change it, but that is just for a reason I know and why I want to fix it, but this is the desired color spectrum. And obviously it's based off the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. I think it looks really good. For that reason, C tier. It's good. It's just a nice little pack thing. So next up, the African shutters. So I added 4 new shutter pieces to match the in-game Planet Zoo stuff, but they're kind of getting the same D tier treatment as the Egyptian stuff, because I don't really use this style in the base game either. So like even the existing rhino, lion, zebra, and like buffalo signs I don't really use so much. So now with a giraffe, cheetah, elephant, and an ostrich, it makes those ones more useful, but still it's not ideal by any metric. So so next up we have decals. So the decals, I want to love them, and I really do. I think in premise it's a really good idea. This was suggested by a bunch of people in the community. A lot of content creators wanted these for just adding grunge factor to stuff, and I really want to like these, but they're probably C tier, maybe even D tier. I'm gonna put them in D tier. I want to like them. They're just kind of specific. Their colliders are really bad, and while they show up nice on some walls, on others they just kind of look eh. So it's kind of tough. Similarly, this puddle one, it's good, or like I guess the stain or something. It's good. It has the desired effect, but from far away it can kind of look a little bit glitchy and stuff. So it's kind of iffy. So I want to probably rank them a bit lower than what I would have originally wanted them for. But I don't think they're bad. They're not F tier. They're just not high tier by any means. Now I want to kind of rank these ones as well. These silhouette ones, they're so inoffensive and super useful. Like, I actually want to put the bird one specifically in triple S tier. This is the one that you see on every glass window at every zoo. So for that reason, the birds get at like triple S tier. The others, like I said, they're just inoffensive. So they are flexicolor and there's just more decal options. So I'm gonna put them in A tier. They're definitely not bad. They're just a couple of, there's an elephant, lion, and like antelope paw print, essentially. So I don't think it's that bad. Gazelle Fencing. So this one is going to go probably C tier. It's based off Animal Kingdom Lodge, and it's good. I like it. Other than Animal Kingdom Lodge, I don't think it's super practical. It's obviously an art piece, but not super ideal. So for that reason, I'm probably going to put them in there. So here we go. So the Congo Set. This is what a lot of people really like out of the pack. They really like the signage. So I'm going to put most of these in S tier, except for two. Notably the ones that are just not in the pack yet. So same thing, the Red River Hog and the Colobus Monkey have signs already, but they are not in the pack yet. So, for that reason, you kind of get B tier. I'm going to put them in B tier, or C tier, only because I really like the artwork on them. I did all the art myself and stuff, and I do think they look really good. Like, I don't dislike the art style. And so even if you don't have them in your zoo, they have a really good art style. I based them off the Malayan tapir art style. And so I think it looks good. So for that reason, I can't put them in like D tier, but obviously, you know, it's an animal that's not in the pack, so it bothers me. Next up, the Africa signs. Honestly, these are probably getting A tier because I just really like them. I think they're very similar to the Australia like continent sign. You have one that's kind of vague with just like an African patterning, and then this is the topographical map. I've seen these being used as a wood type because of the backside of them. They are flexicolor, and like it just looks really good. So for that reason, A tier. I think they look really good is just the short of it. I guess now we can go into the kind of nature tab. So where do we begin? Probably with the Termite Mounds, because I'm going to be the most critical about these ones. Termite Mounds, I really like one of them, and then the other ones, not so much. So they originally were based off the faux tree branches, so they are climbable, which isn't super ideal, and they're climbable in weird perspectives. They are flexicolor, which is nice, but I'm gonna maybe put this Termite Mound in B tier, and then the others in C, maybe even D tier. I'm not a huge fan of these ones. They're a little bit stretched and stuff in locations. They all use the same texture, that's why. For that reason, they're not as good, but I don't think they're, again, bad by any means. They're just not as good as this one, which I think is the one that came out the best. So next up, we have similar to that is the faux banking. So these are based off of that technique that everyone has been doing recently of trying to make fake mud walls, and I gotta put these probably in the same tier of B tier because they're very useful. People have been finding new techniques around it and stuff, and obviously there's not a ton of variety here. You only have 4 options. Now 4 options is better than no options, of course, and they do work well with the existing faux stuff. I don't think they're super perfect by any means, but they're definitely not bad. So I definitely think they're going to get some use from some people. Next up, the branches. I gotta put these in S tier because people just need more branches. Triple S tier. Everyone loves the branches that I added. I wish there was more. I want to add more, and I want to make some that are like different textures and stuff, but definitely really, really good piece. Okay, the S tier of all S tiers, the new rock types I added. So these are actually ported over from Planet Coaster, and they are Flexicolor. I call them Serengeti rocks. They are Flexicolor rocks with a good texture. For that, do I have to say anything else? They are literally the faux rocks, but even better. The only issue, and like I said, this is annoying, they are technically climbable, which is annoying, and the colliders on them aren't very good, so it's not like the animals will interact with them like a normal rock. These are more of a decorative rock than a practical functional rock. So you're going to want to use the normal in-game Savannah rocks or something, or any other kind of rock since they are Flexicolor, with these kind of as decoration on the sides of your cliff sides and stuff. Similarly, we have the kind of Copy rock set. Now, this set is very useful. It's very good, but I am going to dock it a couple of points for colliders are not the best. They're not the worst, but they're not the best. And then texture resolution. So I want to fix this in a future patch, but they have some texture issues. There are lines down the seams, essentially, in certain locations that I want to fix up, and the texture resolution is not the best for props this large. So for that reason, kind of gets docked a few points. Next up, the Faux Water, or Placeable Water. This is probably S tier. So it's not triple S tier like you'd think for a couple of reasons, and then it mostly comes down to the fact of this could be a blessing or a curse. If you turn it on its side, it turns into a waterfall, which, you know, maybe some people like that, some people might not. Similarly, it does, when you spawn one in, it spawns up here and not where you'd think, which would be like towards the ground, of course. But past that, it's Flexicolor. You can change, you know, animals can walk through it. It has the nice water gloss, and it's good because it has a bunch of different sizes. So like you can make small little ponds and stuff you normally couldn't at any level using this really tiny one. So for that reason, I am going to put these in S tier. So definitely cool. So next up, we have the Faux Baobab tree. So, kind of a gripe I have with it. It's not bad, but it gets D tier because from far away it has that issue that I was talking about with the Frontier Aquatic shingle thing, or whatever, roof set. From far away it'll turn white on certain branches and stuff. The Baobab tree itself will be fine, but from far away, all of them turn white, which isn't super ideal. And even up close, as you can see, there's certain bits of white and stuff. So for that reason, it's not super noticeable, but it's just not my favorite. Not to mention, I think the faux trees that like someone like NDP did recently are way better. So for that reason, I think I would definitely go with that. So we're coming up on the end. So I guess we will, I'm trying to delete this rock. We'll do the gravel set. I'm going to do them all represented by this big circle. The gravel set basically has all the same pieces as the mulch set, but it has this weird issue with the normal map. As you can see along the edges of each one, they're darker, so they make it less seamless than would be ideal. I want to fix that in a future patch, so for that reason it gets docked maybe to B tier, but it's not bad because it's obviously gravel. So it's a little bit redundant too because of Kai's mod that obviously makes it so that you can use the path wherever you want. And so you would probably use gravel that way. But prior to that, this was really useful. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in B tier. It's not bad. It's just not as useful anymore relative. So next up, the hot air balloon. So this is once again full on A tier or triple S tier for LionRider tier because again narcissism. It has my logo on it. Now of course if you don't want my logo on it, you can definitely remove it just simply by deleting the FlexiColor channel. Now it's gone. If you match it up identically, you can make it just a general hot air balloon. So I think it's just really good. It's just a cool prop that, you know, I think a lot of people will want in their zoos and stuff because we don't really have any flat rides or anything cool like that from Planet Coaster. So I think it's really cool. So we're getting towards the end, and as you can see, there is this issue right here. So these are the stained glass pieces. These are some of the first pieces I ever made for the Safari Pack. And as you can see, they have some issues. So one of them turns invisible really low. This one I think is F tier for that reason. It turns invisible so low that it's basically a non-prop. It's not really very good for decorative purposes. I want to fix this in a future patch. I just have no idea. I tried fixing it and got this one slightly better, so it actually had another issue, but it like changes color, which is weird. Like if you zoom out a little bit, it changes to like a different brightness. It's not bad, it's just kind of odd. It's like a really weird little glitch. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan. Next up, we could do the African walls. So I really like these. I think these were based off of Roger Williams, and I think they deserve a spot in probably A tier just because of decorative purposes. They are totally FlexiColor. You have a lot of variety with the patterning and stuff. You can mix and match what is and isn't visible. If you want, you can make the entire thing just totally one color, and then you have a horizontal version of the stained wood texture. I think it's really good. Same thing, you have another, if you made all of this the same color, you essentially have a basic wooden pole. So from that perspective, I think this is also a really useful piece. So I think that is probably one of my favorite props as well. So next up, we are going to the camp section. So the camp section, it's not bad. I think this one is probably one of my favorites for decoration. I might put that in A tier. It's a really nice little tent. And then I think these are going to all get different levels of use. It depends on who you are. Someone like Estan or something is going to love the crates. Other people might not so much, like maybe like the luggage and stuff. I know certain people will use them. Others might not use them at all. So I think the luggage might get docked down to like maybe even C tier, and then the crates are probably going to get A tier, and then the light, it's good. I really like the light. There is a bug with it right now where it's just super bright, and even though you can change the actual amount of light it emits, it's always going to be super bright, which wasn't the case when I originally made it. So that is a little thing that I want to fix in a future patch. Next up, the Safari Off-Road. I really like this. I really think this is like an S tier, even though it's not super crazy. It's just the off-road vehicle, but it's got a zebra patterning, so it's kind of cool. I really like it for that reason. It's actually pretty neat, and it's totally Flexicolor. I really like this. I think it's probably a better Jeep than the actual Jeep, because the other thing is I removed the jerry can and added a tire in the center of the thing, so it's a bit more vague, if that was even possible. These, I don't even know if people noticed at first, but these are probably triple S tier. These are Lion Rider tier. They have bad colliders. That is the only downside. But these are straight versions of the string or rope from North Africa. And obviously, another thing that I added that was like a little extra thing was this tiny little diamond piece. And this is good for making rope bridges. So if you want, you can basically just make little rope bridge things like this and just kind of, you know, make rope bridge textures and stuff. So it's a tiny little piece that I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy. So that's going to be really, really nice. We'll get to that in a minute. But next up, the Vultures. So the Vultures are the first kind of prop animal that's in this pack. I probably will do more in a future update. But I really like these guys. These guys, at minimum, are probably going to get B tier, just because they're kind of taxidermy in a weird way. Like, and then you have a flying bird. So if you want like a bird that flies around, that's also really nice. It uses the East Asian water wheel. What a surprise! But it's definitely kind of cool. So last up in the actual general decoration, we have the rug. It's inoffensive. I'd say C tier. It's not super useful, but it's not super bad either. It's just a rug. It's whatever. If you want, you change all the textures to the same thing, you get a flat color. So that's another option you have. So finally, I can't grade these on their own without placing down some path. So I can do the umbrella, which the umbrella I really like. It's just a vague umbrella. That isn't super themed, so I'm going to put it in S tier, to be honest, because it's the only umbrella in the game that's just normal. It has no theme or anything. It's just a normal umbrella, which is kind of nice. Not to mention it's Flexicolor, so that's also cool. So the last thing, of course, are these things. So the picnic bench, and the trash can. I have to rank these differently, depending on what we go off of. The trash can, I think, is S tier, because it is the only recyclable trash can in the game right now. It even says, like, recycle and stuff, and you can change this and whatever. But it's the only trash can that's kind of like a modern trash can. All the others in-game are, like, super highly themed and stuff. So I really like this one. I think it's a nice modern trash can, and it's really good. The other one that I'm going to put in triple S tier is the bench. And I'm going to show you why, because at first you're probably like, what are you talking about? The bench is kind of like really, really like weirdly themed and stuff. But here's the beauty of the bench, right? You basically take one wood color and just, there you go. Now you just have a normal wooden bench, which apparently has never been a thing in Planet Zoo before. So that's really useful. So that gets triple S tier. That's like a super useful thing. Now, this is essentially going to be a thing that is the picnic table, I guess, that is going to get docked a few points. Probably D tier. I like it because I think it's cool aesthetically. It has, like, obviously Zulu war shields as the chairs and stuff, but you know my opinions by now about how I feel about themed props in general, and I did a Frontier, and I made a themed prop that, unless you're in an African section, is not very useful. But I think aesthetically it looks really, really cool. I also want to, like, kind of mention, I think, I haven't verified this directly, but I feel like it has an issue where it's not functional right now. I think I did something last minute that might have made it not functional, but it will be functional in a future version. I promise you, so that will be a thing. But with that being said, I think this is the final ranking of my Planet Zoo modded Safari Pack. And let me know if you disagree or agree, because I am very interested in how people rank my own props relative to how I ranked them. Obviously, you know, again, call me a narcissist. I didn't put anything in F tier and a lot in, you know, higher tiers. But I think I did a fair amount of roasting of myself. Like, I definitely had a lot of D tiers, at least, like, where I acknowledge my flaws. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Also, go and subscribe, download the Safari pack and the India pack and yada yada yada. Download all of that. The link will be in the description. Thank you all for watching my channel, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.